All right, let's talk about the cost of war. So, you remember a few weeks ago, Congress was all up and excited about passing humanitarian aid to Ukraine, right? It started out as $10 billion, and then it increased to $11 billion, and then it went up higher than that, and it kept going higher and higher and higher. And we were talking about the ridiculousness here on the show of this money and where it was going to go, who's going to account for it. Is going to go to military? No, it's supposed to be a huge piece of it was humanitarian aid, right? This is where it was going to go to help the people of Ukraine and help refugees. To which we said, hey, I love this hypocrisy. Like, you stole $9 billion from Afghans out of their bank accounts, froze their banks after we destroyed their country for 20 years, and you won't give that money back. But we will give the Ukrainian government, who knows what the accounting is like. We're just going to send a check to Zelensky for $14 billion. And where's that money going to go? And how's it being allocated? Turns out it's not good.
Right. Well, remember that this was in a bill to increase the debt limit so the United States could continue to run. So the government would not just halt to a stop, right? Which said that spending is out of control. The United States cannot sustain its current debt limit. But hey, let's pass a law that changes the rules so that we can take on more debt, because why not, right? So in that debt increase bill was $13.6 billion in aid for Ukraine, but it turns out more than half of that has already been earmarked for lethal aid, right? So for those of us think, well, what does it matter? Ukrainians are suffering. We then should just send them food, medical supplies, whatever they need to get out of their region, if that's the case, transport help, all of that stuff. Well, that's not what this is for. This is for weapons. In fact, in the bill, the word war is mentioned hundreds of times, and already $6.5 billion of that has been used for weapons such as guns, missile launchers.
The term military crops up over 350 times in the bill, humanitarian just 58 times.
Now, there is some reference to food and medical aid. That is supposed to be handled by the State Department, but the State Department does not owe us any accounting according to this bill. So we don't get to know, right, what our tax dollars buy in terms of like baby formula or diapers, which are things that none of us would object to, right? So why does this matter when obviously aid is needed for refugees, not just in Ukraine, but around the world? Well, because when the United States did this same thing, used the same language about sending aid to Afghanistan, that didn't go so well for us, right? And so are we just sort of going along with the flow, like, yeah, they need it, go ahead, and we're letting our government do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, because again, the State Department in this whole rule here is the one responsible for doling out this money. Like the State Department has lone responsibility for deciding every aspect of the distribution of this money. They don't have to like consult with anybody else. Like,
yes,
it's the State Department, right? Which of course runs. Can you name like a building that they run?
The State Department?
Yeah. Do they run? What do they run? They run
international travel, and they
Exactly.
take care of Americans who live abroad, and also the State Department is like the PR department for
Right.
America.
So again, this idea that, okay, maybe this is going to be for humanitarian disbursement, right? After all, it's the State Department, right? It could be for embassy, it could around the world. It's not though.
Right.
And the way that this has been doled out, of course, is for military aid. And again, these agencies who got all of their hooks in this bill. I mean, you have $145 million for to counteract disinformation. Like that's in here. $145 million is put in here to fight disinformation.
And actually, the State Department does not have the personnel to distribute diapers in that area right now. I know this for a fact. And so, I'm on all of these moms groups that are like, let's put our baby clothes and take the clothes that our babies have outgrown and give that and just send it on trucks. And the State Department is saying, we don't have anybody there that's like, who's a size 4? Anybody size 4? What size diapers do you need? That's not there. You can send money.
They need food.
Right. And so this idea that we're just like, oh, let's just all be generous because we have empathy is wonderful, but very misguided.
One of the pieces of this that I found really outrageous, again, this $145 million, this slush fund to aid independent media to fight disinformation and misinformation. I mean, think about that, right? So is that 145 million responsible for blocking internet sites so Americans can't read certain
Sure.
sources? Like, is that part of the slush fund so we can't
That, or it's
access?
actually the opposite. It's the fund for disinformation. They just say it's against it.
Right. Oh, exactly. And we're going to talk more about that as it relates to Canada here in a moment. But, you know, again, so the U.S. Agency for Global Media, USAGM, which is a parent company of the CIA created state run outlets Radio Free Asia and Voice of America, basically are now given this extra money to counteract disinformation and provide factual data about the situation in Ukraine. Really, I'd love to go. I'd love to go to their sources and see the updates on what's happening in the Donbass region. I want to see updates about the pullback out of Kyiv this morning and see what's happening there. I want to get this information. I'm sure that these sources, because you, the taxpayers, are funding this $145 million. I'm sure this will be a great source for us to get some factual information.
Yeah.
We should do our whole show just pulling this factual information from these sources.
Well, you know, Americans do approve of sending aid to, in recent polls, how do you say this, Quinnipiac? Quinnipiac polls show that a large majority of Americans do want to send assistance to Ukraine to the tune of 75%, which is so interesting, right? Because who's asking Americans what other refugees need assistance, right? Like, this is just this one area that has this bad conflict, but okay. Only 17% though involve doing something, approve of doing something even if it provokes war. So that's pretty low. Most people say, yes, let's send some money, sure, right, write a check. But no, not if it brings war to our shore. Then we should absolutely stay out of it.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.